When the name of Star Wars Episode 8 was revealed to be The Last Jedi, a lot of people immediately speculated that this could mean Luke Skywalker will see his end in this upcoming film. Now, with the first trailer released to the world, that speculation seems largely erased. In its place, though, is a whole new world of speculation well underway, most of that centering around the line of, "It's time for the Jedi to end." So what is it that Luke could mean when he says that? Why is it that the Jedi must end? That name and title is iconic to the Star Wars franchise and synonymous with the good guys in the constant struggle of good versus evil. But when you look at things just a little bit deeper, leaving behind the ways of the Jedi doesn't look like such a bad idea. The Jedi have a pretty depressing track record of being horrendously wrong about lots of important things, being blinded by their own outdated religious obsessions or desire for control, and overall just kind of getting their asses kicked.
In the arms of the angel, fly away from here.
Luke undoubtedly knows this, maybe as well as anybody, seeing how, as far as we know, the most recent crushing defeat to the Jedi seems to have come under his own watch and by one of his own family members. Between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, we don't know how many young Jedi Luke was trying to train, or what kind of strength and numbers he might have had against an uprising. But regardless, the power of the dark side prevailed over the Jedi once again, and the strategy of building up a base of young Jedi and then suffering a vicious slaughter to nearly all of them probably isn't going to be sustainable for the long run. And it's because of this that the lines spoken by Rey and Luke in the new trailer intrigue me so much. We hear Luke asking Rey what she sees. She replies with light, darkness, the balance. To which Luke responds, "It's so much bigger." At least that's what most people think he says. A big part of me hears him say, "is so much bigger," as if to complete the sentence for Rey to have it all read, "the balance is so much bigger." Either way, it hints to the idea that light and dark, Jedi and Sith, are not the only paths available to those strong in the Force, but that balance, and not the Jedi's selfish idea of balance that they thought should make them as the exclusive Force users in the galaxy, but true balance is the most powerful path to walk in the Force. The path that could somehow harness the abilities of both the light and the dark. And this concept becomes all the more intriguing upon looking back to the novelization of The Force Awakens, which opened with an excerpt from the Journal of the Whills that reads, "First comes the day, then comes the night. After the darkness shines through the light. The difference, they say, is only made right by the resolving of gray through refined Jedi sight." Initially, that passage had little to no context, but between a handful of additions to the Star Wars canon since that novel's release, as well as the first trailer for The Last Jedi, it looks more and more like they're hinting that the main protagonists of the Star Wars saga are about to seek out more balance between light and dark rather than just go full Jedi. In other words, it's indeed very much looking like Grey Jedi are going to finally become canon, or at least the concept of the Grey Jedi, because I'm almost certain that they will not call themselves that, but rather something new entirely if Luke truly does intend to let the old ways of the Jedi Order officially become a thing of the past. Oh, and if you're wondering to yourself, what is the Journal of the Whills? Really, we don't yet know much about it exactly or how it's going to fit in, but basically from what we can gather, the Whills were basically higher beings who were very in tune with the Force. And it's believed that the Journal of the Whills is basically an ancient record of all their most important findings. We're likely to learn more about the Whills in the near future, but for now, that's the best I've got. Now, for those who stick exclusively to the Star Wars movies, this whole balanced gray concept will probably seem brand new and exciting. For those who also dive into things like the cartoons and comics, this will seem a bit more familiar, but nonetheless still very exciting. The past season and a half of Star Wars Rebels has given us two decent looks at what we could potentially expect from these balanced Force users. The first of the two was in the form of the former Jedi apprentice to Anakin Skywalker, Ahsoka Tano. During her return to the Star Wars animated world, she's not shy about talking about leaving the Jedi Order. And during the Season 2 finale, when she has a showdown with Darth Vader, makes the emphatic statement of, "I am no Jedi," when Vader makes mention that her actions are not the Jedi way. What's especially significant about this, though, is that Ahsoka then proceeds to actually hang right up there with Vader in a lengthy lightsaber battle, even damaging Vader's mask with one particular well-timed strike. Keep in mind too that Ahsoka was only trained as a Jedi Padawan, and while she was good in that respect, she would probably know as well as anyone that she would be no match for Vader with just that prior training alone. But if she found new power by looking deeper into the Force, beyond just what's taught by the Jedi and the Sith, then maybe that's where she found that confidence to go into that fight. And when we consider that she says she's fighting to avenge her old master Anakin Skywalker, in light of Vader saying he destroyed Anakin, it's practically spelled out for us that she's fighting with quite a bit of extra emotion, well beyond what would ever be smiled upon by the Jedi. But she's not the only middle-of-the-road Force user that Rebels has given us. Season 3 introduced a character called the Bendu, who refers to himself as the one in the middle. Bendu seems to completely scoff at the idea of aligning oneself with only the light or dark, as if it's simply a limit to the potential power of the Force that one could unlock. And seeing as how the Bendu tends to have a great deal of knowledge in the Force and eventually shows off some very impressive capabilities, it only adds to the speculation that the most powerful Force users are the ones that can fully harness the discipline and will to do good that the light offers, with a decent bit of the raw emotion and power that can come from the dark side. Going back to that excerpt from the Journal of the Wills, by resolving of gray through refined Jedi sight. It really makes you wonder what Luke has found along this whole journey of his. Did the first Jedi Temple help him see more clearly how flawed the Jedi Order really was? Or did the journal give him the knowledge to take his already well-trained Jedi abilities and then blend it in with a little bit of something darker to become something even more powerful? If the entire Journal of the Wills was found at this first Jedi Temple, it very well could have provided Luke with the information as to how allowing a little emotion into one's mind can actually be a powerful ally if kept under control. You know, that very emotion that the Jedi seem to actively reject, the emotion that when they finally let in a little bit was often the difference maker for them in some battles. Even Rey at the end of The Force Awakens finally gets the better of Kylo Ren once she finally gets pissed off and fights with some anger behind her. It seems that despite her very slight and limited knowledge of the Force thus far, a genuine desire to do good, topped with some fierce anger, was her key to victory over somebody much more trained than her, albeit injured at the time. But because of all this, the first trailer for The Last Jedi seems to imply that Luke has discovered true balance within the Force, and how to use some of those slivers of dark side power to his benefit and most likely to Rey's benefit as well. The old ways of the Jedi have failed over and over for decades at this point, allowing sinister forces to rise like the Galactic Empire and the First Order. And it just might be the case that Luke was finally the one desperate enough to go seek out the answers as to where the Jedi went astray and what other powers he can unlock for himself in the fight against evil. But anyway, that is just my extended take on the 7 simple words of "it's time for the Jedi to end." Certainly in a few months this could all be proven wrong, but in the meantime it was fun to speculate. As always, if you have any thoughts on this entire thing, please share them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, I always appreciate you dropping a like on that. Subscribe if you want more videos like this one, which are obviously going to be coming more frequently as we get closer to The Last Jedi. But above all else, everybody, thank you so much for watching.